Hello there, Brick Fanatics. I am here in the desert wastes of Tatooine to talk about the brand new LEGO Desert Skiff because, frankly, it is absolutely brilliant. We've had a lot of these LEGO Desert Skiffs over the years, and I have developed something of a reputation this year, I think, for complaining about the LEGO group just kind of doing the same things that we've seen before in 2024 in particular. But this Desert Skiff is something different. It is wonderful in its selection of minifigures, first off, which, as I've said, throughout this entire year have been absolutely phenomenal. The LEGO group is really crushing it on the minifigure front, but also one thing that really stands out about this one is that to date it is absolutely the best LEGO Sarlacc that we have ever seen. It is fantastic. Now that said, I am kind of roasting here in the desert sands of Tatooine that are definitely not a local children's play park, and if there's one thing that we all know about sand, it is that it is rough and it is coarse and it is irritating and it gets everywhere, especially into fancy camera equipment. So for that reason, I think I might just move for the rest of this video to a slightly safer location. There we go, that is much better. Pretend I'm on like Endor or something now instead. So, I've got a visual aid for this part of the video. Ignore everything on this page. We're not talking about anything else on this page except for 2012's 9496 Desert Skiff, which is very much indicative of the kinds of desert skiffs that we've had in the past. We've got the little skiff itself, we've got a Luke, we've got some baddies, we've got a baddie, and we've got Lando Calrissian in disguise, very much the same as the new one. And then we've got this over here, a little brick-built Sarlacc. It's not a huge piece, it's not the largest thing within the set. Most of the focus here is on that skiff and on Luke Skywalker and his lightsaber and on Lando and on, is that a Weequay? No, Kithaba, the bounty hunter. The Sarlacc is not huge, and it is neither huge in Jabba's sail barge from 2006, where it's a little bit bigger, but it's still fairly small in terms of the full scope of the set. The Sarlacc has never been given a truly detailed and focused LEGO treatment. And that's kind of fair if you think about how it is conveyed in the film itself. So in the original theatrical cut of Return of the Jedi, C-3PO is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in communicating just how big and bad and terrible the Sarlacc is, because you get his wonderful little speech, which is probably some of the best work that Anthony Daniels has ever done, where he talks about how in its belly you will rediscover suffering as you are slowly digested over 1,000 years. And it is from that little speech that we get the idea that the Sarlacc is not something you want to fall into. That, of course, this is Star Wars and most things are fairly trying to kill you at some point or another, but the Sarlacc is a particularly bad way to go. And if you happen to be an unlucky, say, Mandalorian-esque bounty hunter, then you're going to have a really bad time in there. In that original version of the film itself, that speech is really all you get, because otherwise the Sarlacc is kind of a pit in the middle of the desert with a few teeth sticking out and some tendrils, and that's about it. And you don't really get a scope of what this is, and you don't necessarily feel like it's the worst thing in the world. It is just kind of a sandy pit. And so in one of his many changes, when he came back to do the special edition version of the film, George Lucas decided that he wanted the thing to kind of go full Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors and pop out with a little beak and kind of look around and go, nom, 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 nom. This kind of transformed the Sarlacc from being just a hole in the ground to something that you could even do in LEGO form and for it to make sense, because otherwise it is just an absence of bricks to a certain degree because it's a big hole. Wile E. Coyote fans are going to get mad at me for disrespecting the noble hole. But do you know, having this book on hand is actually really useful because I don't have to memorize all of the numbers. So 2000's Desert Skiff, number 7104, didn't bother with a Sarlacc entirely. It just had Luke and Han and the skiff itself. I had that one as a kid. I really liked it. That was my favourite little Luke Skywalker minifigure for quite a while, and I think my only Han Solo for a while. And then future Desert Skiffs didn't necessarily bother with the Sarlacc. This was kind of a later thing, but it was always an afterthought. It was never fully really fleshed out. It was never developed. And certainly there are a bunch of different mocks and fan creations that have attempted to do more justice to the Sarlacc. And when the LEGO group started doing all of the dioramas that they've been doing recently, a lot of people were hoping, oh, we could get like a really neat Sarlacc diorama, something that kind of really shows how awesome and terrifying this thing actually is. And that never really materialized until now. German retailer Lucky Bricks has shown off, perhaps slightly early, but it's out in the public now, so we're going to have to talk about it, the wonderful 75396 Woesten Skiff und Sarlacc Grube. I have a German surname, I do not speak German. Like, the most German I know is that ba 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 ba. So yeah, don't look to me for German. Anyway, Woesten Skiff und Sarlacc Grube contains not just Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Chewie and Lando and Boba Fett and Nien Nunb, for reasons that we'll get back to in a second, and the skiff itself. It's also got a big honkin' Sarlacc, like a proper developed Sarlacc for the first time. This set is still clearly, definitely aimed, I would say, more towards play than display. But I feel like with this one, the LEGO group has decided to try and make it a display set as well. And so that's potentially the reason why this time around we're getting a more fleshed out Sarlacc. And as said, I'm not talking about anything else from that page in the Dorling Kiddersley book that I had up a second ago. We're just focusing on this particular set. It feels really nice to have something that's a little bit more display worthy, even if the set is ostensibly aimed at a 9+ audience. I mean, you can see from the pictures on the box that this one has so much more potential for display than any Sarlacc that we've had before. You can have Boba Fett kind of sticking out of the beak of the Sarlacc saying, "Oh no, help me, I hope I don't get stuck in a terrible Disney Plus show as a result of this." Something like that. It's a bit odd that this set doesn't come with any bad guys on that note, because it's got Luke and Han and Chewie and Lando and Nien Nunb and Boba Fett, who we all know is absolutely a good guy now, but it's also nice that we get that moment of a change of heart from him, and the point at which he sits down and really thinks to himself, well, I've got 1,000 years to think through my life choices. I think I'd rather be like the world's friendliest crime boss. Apologies for that. I do try to keep my own opinions on Star Wars media out of these videos. I'm afraid the mask slipped just a little bit there, much like the mask slipped off of Boba Fett's head when it was taken by a Jawa. Anyway, we're on the subject of minifigures, so we might as well roll with that for a while. One of the things I love about the LEGO sets for Star Wars that are more aimed at display is the fact that they come with a bunch of cool minifigures. Like, typically, the more minifigures in a set, the better it works as a display piece for LEGO Star Wars. And this one is absolutely no exception. So we've got Luke Skywalker with the hairpiece from the Emperor's Throne Room diorama from last year. Not my favourite of Luke's hair molds, but absolutely the one that you would need to include in this set because it's his Return of the Jedi hair, so that's absolutely fine. We've got Han and we've got Chewie, and they are basically the same Han and Chewie that we have had for donkey's years at this point, so there's not really a huge amount of new things to talk about there. The Boba Fett that we've got is the same one from the mech rather than from, say, the Microfighter or from any of the Boba Fett Disney Plus tie-in sets, which is brilliant because that is the most detailed one that we've had recently with arm printing and with leg print. This Lando is a good Lando, one that we've had in the past, yes, but not for a while. Typically, generally only ever comes with the Desert Skiff because that's when Lando dresses up in that costume. This is a nice collection of core minifigures. They could have put in an alien or two for Luke to force kick, but at the same time, I don't feel like their absence is a terrible loss, simply because I'm happy with the collection of the core good guys from the set, plus Boba Fett, depending on where his alignment happens to be at this particular moment in time. And then there's Nien Nunb. I hope I'm saying that right. I've never actually had to say that out loud before, which is odd. One of my favourite characters from Return of the Jedi, just sitting there, just being a happy guy, just oh, we've blown up the Death Star, that was fun, I had a good time, let's do it again. Anyway, he has finally been given the LEGO treatment, and while it would have been nice to see him in, say, a Millennium Falcon set, we've already got a Millennium Falcon set for this year, and that one's chock-a-block full of really cool minifigures too, so he's been thrown into this set as a bonus 25th anniversary minifigure. As I've said multiple times... Can you hear that? What is that? Sounds like either a very aggressive woodpecker or someone's doing some drilling somewhere. As I've said multiple times at this point, I feel like for these bonus minifigures, the LEGO designers decided they were just going to go nuts. They were going to pick out characters that wouldn't otherwise get their own dedicated sets, but that just needed the minifigure treatment, and that is very much appreciated. Like, yes, you could have had Nien Nunb in a Millennium Falcon set, but we've already got a Millennium Falcon set for this year, and it's gorgeous, and it has all the minifigures it really needs, so this was really the only way that we were going to get Nien Nunb anyway. Now, based on the retailer listing, this set is somewhat more expensive than Desert Skiffs that we've had in the past. And I think given the number of elements that go into the design of that Sarlacc, and given the number of minifigures in this box, I do feel like that's somewhat more justified than for certain other somewhat kind of pricey looking LEGO sets from the Star Wars theme that have been revealed very recently. Like, I feel like there's more going on in this set than with, say, the custom droid builder, which feels a little bit more superfluous, like you can kind of do everything that you need to do with that one in a couple of hours. Whereas with this one, I feel like you've got the building and then you've got a lot of good play opportunities or a lot of good display opportunities depending on what you happen to want it for. Obviously prices are going to be relative. Some people are going to be more happy with them than others. And definitely if you're thinking about this set as like a companion piece to a wider Star Wars collection, then you might feel a little bit frustrated at having to pay this much money for a set that is going to be stood next to something else on the shelf. But even so, I feel like this is a delightful, different way of approaching the Desert Skiff. The fact that we have that more fleshed out Sarlacc does feel like this adds something that we've not seen in this level of detail from LEGO Star Wars before, and it certainly turns something that is otherwise something of an afterthought into a general, like, solid focal point for this set, so that it's not just the skiff, it is more than that. And for that reason, I absolutely think this is great. But that said, I'm probably wrong because you probably have a different opinion, so feel free to let me know that down in the comments. Make sure that you also do all of the regular YouTube things and give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe and the notification bell if you're going to be purchasing this Desert Skiff, any other LEGO Star Wars set, or any other LEGO set in general in the near future. There is a QR code currently on screen or a link in the description which takes you straight to the LEGO website, and it gives us just a little bit of a kickback when you make that purchase. It's not going to cost you anything extra, but it helps to keep the lights on at Brick Fanatics. Oh hey, I'm outside. We don't even need the lights on this time. I'm saving so much money on electricity right now. Brilliant. Anyway, go to brickfanatics.com for more LEGO coverage and make sure that you sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything LEGO related ever again. Thank you very much for watching.